Hi everyone, welcome to this episode where we're going to be talking about definitely one of my Roman empires. I don't know about you, Nadine, but I have a sneaky suspicion it might be as well. And would you like to tell us what book that is?
Yes, you know it. It is one of my favorite books. It's called Shadow and the Ember, and it is not as popular because the popular one is called From Blood and Ash. And this book just did it for me while the other one didn't. And we haven't both read it in quite a while. So we thought we could use this episode to kind of catch up, jog our memories what it's all about, and then you guys can decide whether you want to read it or not. So well, I don't actually remember book one as well because then just was it the second book or the third book that was so good? It was the second one, right?
I think the second one was the best book for sure. The third book annoyed me a little bit in the beginning, but the end, I don't think I've ever cried
Yes.
so much at a book to the point where I couldn't read the pages. My
Yes.
husband
No,
was worried for my mental state. But
you're
the
right.
first book really hooked me in, though.
Yeah.
I think,
I remember now the timeline. So basically it's Sarah, so Seraphina, right? That's what
yeah,
she's called.
yeah,
Yeah. Or do I pronounce it correct? So she was supposed to be married off as a sacrifice to this god or semi-god.
yeah,
And then that whole ceremony was he showed up, but he didn't want her
yeah.
and then left again. And then she meets this other guy. I mean, my my storytelling sucks, but basically, then she meets this other guy, and and then she has a fallout with her family. I don't want to give away too much, and he saves her and takes her to her world, and then it turns out they're one and the same guy, basically.
Yeah.
But he still doesn't want to marry her. Does he tell her in book one why?
He tells her that he's incapable of love, doesn't he?
Yeah, but does he tell her why he doesn't
No. We
know?
don't find out until, I think, book two or book three why he doesn't want to marry her
I think so,
or
yeah.
love her.
Yeah, but so the thing is, and that's really bad. So we like a good, for me, I love enemies to lovers. Like
Yeah,
if you give me any book, enemies to lovers, I will love it.
yeah.
And most of the time, however, if enemies to lovers get together like halfway through the book, I'm like, what are you gonna do now the rest of the book? Like to me, it's like not
The
really.
excitement is just gone.
So they get together, but not really, because he said he has a part of him removed that makes you capable of love. But his actions are, you think well, only someone who loves you does this.
Yeah.
So what I like about the series is this constant tension, and it's still they're almost together, but then something else happens, and then they can't be
She
together.
does something to ruin it.
Yes, she does
Yeah.
something to ruin it. But then you realize, oh no, he actually didn't do something bad, but she thought it was something
Yeah.
bad. And now I also just remembered what I didn't like about the Blood and Ash series compared to Shadow and the Ember is the inner monologue when they are thinking and talking to themselves. When Seraphina talks to herself or thinks, it's okay-ish, but sometimes she still annoys me a little bit. I think oh
Mhm.
God, just open your mouth and talk, right?
Mhm.
Instead of
Yeah.
making up this whole story. But then literally my character. But in the Blood and Ash series, Poppy, I absolutely hate her inner monologue. I keep thinking constantly, I mean, that's not normal. You're so annoying. So that's why I love this. But obviously the main reason why I love it, and probably the same for you, is the male character.
Of course. Those unhinged male characters.
Yes. See, and we
Yeah, I
said
mean,
that in
he's
the
the
other.
god of death, right? Kind of. But yeah.
Yes, and we said that in the other series. We do kind of the morally gray characters, and this one, if we want to compare it to Reese, for example, he constantly was being portrayed as this bad guy, but then he
Mhm.
would save everyone and he
Yeah.
would put, I think, the safety of the world first and then everything else.
Yeah.
Whereas he, I say, Niktos. Do I say that correct?
Niktos. Yeah.
Or Ash,
Niche.
he will put Sarah first and he doesn't care. He literally, word by word, says, I will burn down the world.
Oh, somebody's gonna burn down the world for you. That's your person, right?
That's our person, right? But then, if you think about it, if you're in the world and like you're reading it, you think like, oh my god, like it's the most romantic thing. But if you're outside of the book and you're thinking about it, then like Reese, he wouldn't burn down the world. Like he would think of all the innocence,
Yeah.
and it's like more important to him.
Yeah.
That's why it's so hard for me to like, if I would have to pick one, I don't know who I would pick.
I don't know either. I, maybe no, no, I do know. But then I feel like really bad for Reese. I would probably pick Nick Dawes. I really like Reese. Like he's everything. But I think he's just. I really like him. Just same with like Cassian. The difference. I like the really rugged, like I don't know, dirt is the right word. Rugged men. Like if there's a guy sitting in an office against a guy who's working out on a farm, I'm gonna go for the farm. And
I
as much as I love Reese and he's great to look at and he's got a great character, and like as I was saying, I'm not gonna kick him out of bed.
mean,
But maybe he's a bit too clean. I don't know. But yeah, Niktos definitely for me. I think I would run for Niktos over Reese. Maybe. Maybe I upset a lot of people. I'm really sorry, but I'm probably running for Niktos, especially if he's going to burn down the world and take me with him. I'm
yeah.
like, I'm
I mean,
probably
that was like my favorite sentence. But then the other one was when so then in book two, yeah, so then in book three is when she's actually being
yeah.
taken prisoner. And I didn't like that. Like,
No,
they didn't have enough, like, of team time
I don't think
together.
the only problem with book three that I have, and I spoke with because my mum is reading these books at the moment, and I spoke to my mum about this. The book three, like I think he needed to take her prisoner. Like I don't want to give any spoilers, but he needed to take her prisoner. But I think it went on for too long. It
Yeah,
didn't
way
need to
too
go on
long.
that long. I think if you look at her character and everything she did in book one and book two and how strong she was and how hard she fought in those wars,
Yeah,
she would not have been in that cage for that long.
fair.
So I think that should have been a lot shorter. But the end of book three, like I read a lot of reviews after because I always review books at the end, and I felt really sad that if you look through those reviews, and I
Yeah,
don't want people not to read the series based on the reviews of book three on Kindle and Amazon, because the end of that book was one of the best endings I've ever read. It was so good. I cried like I've never cried before. My husband was worried for my mental health. He kept looking at me and he was like, "Are you sure you should be reading that book? Like, are you okay? Like, I haven't seen you cry this much." I couldn't read the words. I
it
was
was
that
so
much. I
good.
was literally ugly crying into this book, and but it was so good. It was so good. So I don't want people to be put off by the reviews that are online. You just got to push through.
Yeah,
I think those that first bit to get to that ending, and now I can't wait for book four. I'm like,
yeah, me
I
too.
can't-
Talking about reviews, do you actually read reviews before you get a book?
no,
Me neither.
I
I
stopped doing it, but I'm the same with hotels as well. Like I'm not good with the reviews. I read reviews, but I ignore stupid reviews that are
yes,
just based on people's opinion. Like for example, if you read, and we're going a bit off topic, but if you read the hotel reviews and someone's complaining that the mattress wasn't comfy or the
yeah,
pillow, that's just based on what you like, right? But if the reviews are like it was dirty and it stinks and the food had bugs in it and things,
yeah.
that's different. But I think it's the same with books and products as well. Like people are like, "Oh, I didn't like the main character. I don't like men with black hair." Or I think, it just. I think you've got to take reviews as it's somebody's opinion. You've got to make your own. I mean, if every review is really bad, because the writing was not good.
Yeah.
Or there was, because I've had books with spelling mistakes in, like
No way.
it's really bad. The grammar was not good. Then I'm not going to read the book.
Yeah.
But if it's just based on opinion,
Yeah.
then no, I'm probably going to read the book.
Yeah. Same. It the only I also like I don't I never want to say like this book was bad because again it's always like based on my personal experience. But the reason why I think this one I also really loved is because so many books I've read since are all about fae and mates, and it's just too similar of what
Hmm.
Sarah J. Maas has written. And then I can't help myself but look once I'm reading it and it feels so familiar that I'm like, oh, come on. And then I'm reading, then I'm going to check in the front of the book when the book has been published, and then it's after Akatar, then I can't help but think you've subconsciously or consciously took so much from this world and made it in your own book. It's just a copy of it. Whereas this book has different storylines, it's in a different world, it's with gods instead of like fae. And I feel like it's really hard nowadays. There are only so many things that you can make up, vampires,
Yeah.
fae, witches. And I personally feel like I need to switch worlds a lot, especially I mean, after I've read this book, I couldn't find another book that I liked, and I needed to go to like contemporary romance and dark romance out of fantasy because I could just like nothing could compare to it. So I don't know why I said this, but here you go.
No, but it's true. Like I really struggled after Akatar to find anything else to read. Like I read it again because
Yeah,
I didn't know what I was going to, and I was the same with like going to be really nostalgic. 50 Shades of Grey. Like this is another podcast episode. Those books like
yes,
completely changed my perspective of reading, and I think a lot of women's reading, and I think it also changed a lot of things for women in the world as well. But that's
yeah,
another podcast.
yeah,
50 Shades of Grey. And trying to find, I think one of the reasons I stopped reading after 50 Shades of Grey because I couldn't find anything that excited me in a
yeah,
storyline. I mean, it's not just about the sex; it's about the build-up and everything. I couldn't, so that's one of the reasons I stopped reading because every time I picked up a book, I was like putting it down, like it's not the same. And my mum kept giving me these romance books. I was like, but it's not the same. There's no enemies to lovers. Like, I need that, and I don't think there was enough of it then. So I think that's one of the reasons I stopped reading. But again, after Akatar, I just couldn't find anything, so I reread it, and it wasn't until you said about Shadow and Ember, and because it was completely different,
yes,
I wasn't compare. There was I couldn't compare it to Akatar. You just can't compare it. So yeah, yeah. So I need to have something different in the next book.
yes, yeah,
Otherwise, I can't look for the same thing. Otherwise, I just end up in this slump where, and then I go back to like, I don't want to hate reading because
yeah,
I do
exactly.
read.
Well, what everybody's calling it a book hangover, right? Like
Yeah,
you literally can. So you're ending on this high,
yeah.
and you want to chase the next high. However, so you literally start reading right another book, but because they always start slow anyway, it's like never gonna give you that. So then
No,
for me, it's easier just to read like something that gives me a little bit of fun, but it's never, but I already know it's not going to give me these kind of like feelings. And we should do actually a podcast episode for like books that you can read in between, like, so
yeah.
like the page cleanser books.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, this one definitely ended on a high in book two. Like I couldn't even, and I mean, I can't even. The writing is so good, but it's mostly the male, obviously the male character who says all these things. But also, like, I do like stories about gods or like
Yeah.
half gods or anything about that way more actually than I do about fae. Like I love this world way more, um, and I don't feel like there are that many out there. It's
No, I
usually
mean, what puts me off with the gods, like, I like the god things, and the reason I like those books because it wasn't set as Greek gods. I
yes.
have an issue when it's very Greeky, mythological,
Oh,
like,
really?
it's not really my. And when you said to me gods, I was like, I really hope it's not like Greek god type things because it's just can't. Maybe there's something that I might enjoy, but it already puts me off before I go into reading it. So I'm
Mm,
already in that mindset. But the fact that this was completely different, there was no connection. So for the other people out there that don't like Greek god things, there is zero connection to any of those Greek
there
mythology type
isn't.
things. So, but no, I really enjoyed that. But I like reading stories where I can't predict the ending. I
Yes,
can't predict what's happening next, and I think that was one of the series where you just couldn't. It wasn't predictable. I
yes,
think.
yes. I love that, and I I like when the male character is portrayed as like the bad guy first, like really bad, and I mean he is really bad. But then he's doing all these nice things only for her.
Yeah.
That's what I love. Like that's my
Same with the book I'm reading right now. I think but he's mentally unhinged though. But then he's turning good now, isn't he? A little bit.
a
But
little
he's not he's bad good though.
oh
Scarred. I'm
yeah,
reading
you're reading.
Scarred. But I'm
I
reading Scarred.
mean, Scarred. I loved. I really
Yeah.
loved.
I mean, he's at the end of the day, he's bad.
Really
But
bad. Like really
but at the end, he's the good side of bad.
yeah. I mean,
In the real world, he's bad, but in the book, he's the good side of bad.
which leads me back to Nick. Does in the end, he
Yeah,
would kill everybody if he could just have
yeah,
her,
hmm
and that's technically maybe not the characteristic you want to go for, but to me, that's definitely a characteristic I want to go for. So
absolutely.
yeah, I love that, and I also love that it it constantly is their story. Like it's not somebody else's story.
Yeah,
And even though it's like a series, it's still their story and it didn't get boring, even though they, enemies to lovers get together, but then something else happens. That's what I like because, like I said in the beginning, if they get together really early and then it's just like, well, what now?
yeah, yeah.
So I love
I
that.
really struggle when it switches between characters. I
Do you mean
struggle with that. So, like, if it's
like
about
double
them, the whole
POV?
yeah. So I like that the whole story was about them,
Yeah.
about
Aha.
Nick,
Yeah.
Ash,
Yeah.
and Sarah.
Yes.
But when, for example, Throne of Glass, when it's about multiple, even though there's main characters,
Mm,
but there's full chapters and books about other people, but my brain is, I don't know if it's just how I work, like I'm invested in those characters and I
yes.
don't care about anybody else. Like I've said to you before, I don't care what colour the trees are, I don't care what Tamlin's wearing, what shade of green he's got on today. I don't care. Like I'm invested in these characters and I want to see their story
Yeah.
from start to finish. I don't care what's going on. If they want to bring out a new book about I don't mind having characters in books and learning about them on the sidelines. That's fine, but I'm like invested. I need books where it's about the main characters because I would like to get invested and obsessed over the main characters. But when it's constantly switching everywhere, I just completely lose interest.
I,
That's
I
my
I
problem.
agree. Honestly, I agree, and I know that's we will have the next episode about like Throne of Glass. Probably that's
Mhm.
why you didn't enjoy it as much. And I will say what I do, and I mean, don't hate me for it. But like, let's say I'm reading. That's why I always read physical books. Like I read, and then like, oh, okay, it stops, and then a new thing comes. I literally move forward to the next chapter to continue that story until I'm satisfied with it, and then I go back and read the other story because my like this is like such a bad thing for my brain because it's like up and down, like I need to constantly chase the high basically. So again, that's why I love this book, and that actually brought me to the question, do you like that it's only written from her point of view, right?
Yeah, and no, I don't like that.
You like double
I
POV?
like the Scarred that we're reading now. I
Yeah,
like that it switches
yeah, I like
because
that.
I always think to myself, I wonder what he's thinking in this situation.
Yeah,
Like when I read 50 Shades of Grey, it was all from Anna's point of view,
yeah.
and then after they brought out another book, Grey, but from his point of view, and I think there's two sides to every story, right?
Yeah,
And I want to know the other side because maybe it's just because I'm a nosy bitch. That's just how I am. Well, I'm really nosy. I want to know what they're thinking as well. Like, I like it when it switches. Like,
Yeah.
especially Scarred. I think I struggled at the start with Scarred because it was in first person,
Yes.
and that was weird to read a
Yeah.
book. The whole book is in first person.
Yeah.
Like I did this. I looked at her, and it's really that threw my brain a little bit. But you get used to it. But I like that it's from both. Like you read the chapter from her, and then it constantly follows on from
Yeah.
his perspective as well, and he jumps back to how he felt in that moment. And I like to know both sides,
Yes.
so I really like that.
Uh,
Yeah,
I do like that too, and that's why I think you might like Powerless because it's also double POV.
yeah,
But I think what I personally think the reason why Shadow and the Ember, as well as um, chapter 54 in our favorite book, we love it so much is because we only see one point of view, so we don't know why another person is doing all of that. And then only at the end, when the whole build-up is already done, you realize this person did all of these things that you had no idea about.
hmm
Like in this book as well, he does some really shady shit, and then you think like, well, why would he do that now? Is he cheating on her, and
hmm
what's going on? And if you would see his point of view too early, it would take that away,
yeah.
basically.
Yeah, I
So
mean
that's
that's okay because I like when it comes out at the end, and that's what I like. The bits that I liked about Throne of Glass as well, where the reveal came at the
yes,
certain point. So that's okay if you find out. But there's books I've read, I don't know off the top of my head, where you don't know the other person's side of the story.
yes,
I suppose it doesn't have to flip, but as long as you find out in the end why, like in Akatar and
yeah,
in Shadow and the Ember, then that's fine. I'm okay with that because then you get that oh
yes.
moment. But if you don't find out, which does happen often, it's like oh okay, now I
Oh,
want the book his perspective.
yes. Did you, by the way, know that the next book, so there's one more book coming out from this Flesh
Yeah,
and Fire series, and it was supposed to come out in
yeah.
May.
Don't.
They
I
moved it
read
to
it yesterday.
October.
I read it yesterday and I didn't look because I thought I'm not gonna ruin my week. I thought it was coming out in May, and then I saw something
No,
that
they
it was
moved.
August, and I
No,
was like,
October.
no, it
Yeah.
changed again.
Well, that's what I saw,
No,
but you
it's
know,
not
like
August. So I was like, really?
really. But at the same time, I'm like really interested to see what much else comes. I know you haven't read Blood and Ash, but there are like hints in Blood and Ash of already what has happened. So I already know where it will possibly go. But then I think like how much more will happen and will I
Mhm.
love it because of the whole thing that I said several times. Now the enemies and the lovers are together. Like, is it gonna be what is gonna happen exactly? Will I still love it? That's one thing. And then the other thing is a lot of the times authors wrote these series and they were not super popular and they just kept on writing it. And then suddenly book talk happened and some of the series got picked up and the author got hyped a lot and then they started writing another book for the series or it was planned anyway, but they had the outside pressure from what people think should happen, shouldn't happen, huge pressure of how good the book should be and how fast it should come out. And
Mhm.
then when it came out, it was a huge disappointment. To me, what was a bit with like um Iron Flame and Fourth Wing. A lot of people loved the first book, but then the second book was so highly anticipated and brought out so fast that people didn't love it as much.
Mhm.
I just hope like I'm okay, take longer to bring the book out, but like make it really good.
Yeah. No, I agree. But it's the same with movies as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like sometimes they need to stop, and if you just keep
Yeah.
making them,
Yeah.
you just ruin the whole story. Like sometimes we don't need a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Honestly, for me, a three-part series is my favorite.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
we just sit there.
I've been recommended a 7 series book, and I'm just like, and I've been told how good it is, but I don't think I can.
Which
I
one?
don't want to be in that world. For is my mum recommended it. It's I can't remember the author. It's from Born in Fire or something, and
Hmm.
she's supposed to be like a funny um, assassin type character. And my mum said there's like 7, 8 books, but she's really good. She's really funny. She's a really strong character. It's like a bit quite gruesome as well. But and I'm like, sounds really good and kind of up my street. But there's 8 books, and
You just came out of an 8 book series.
I'm like, I don't want. I don't think I want to be in a world that long. I mean, again, Akatar is different, but I don't. Yeah, I don't want to be in an 8 book world. Just 2, 3 books and then move on to the next thing. I think I get.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but I'm one of those people that hate like after the 3rd book, even though I'm not enjoying it, still want to get to that. I'm the same with the movie. Like my husband's quite happy if he's not enjoying a movie to switch it off and move on. But I'm like, even though the movie is rubbish, I'm invested. Like,
You don't
let's just
DNF it.
finish it. Yeah, I'm let's just finish it because now I'm going to be like, but I didn't finish the movie. So, but I'm like that with the book. So if I start a 10 book series, I'm going to finish the series.
Oh, no, 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 no. I'm definitely the opposite. Like if I hate it, I'm like bye. I'm like
Yeah.
moving on to the next one. And the only downside is because I'm reading mostly physical books. There are some books where I feel like, oh, but I should finish it because I already got the physical copy. But like with series, what I started, like I ordered the first book, physical copy, and if I like it, I'll order the other ones, or otherwise I might just continue like on Kindle. And then if I don't like it, I DNF it. Then I'm like, so I'm not reading a 7 book series if I don't love it. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, so you should definitely read Shadow in the Ember, and
Absolutely.
you should give us your feedback
Yeah.
on how you feel about Nictus or Ash. I actually don't like the word Nictus. Nictus.
Yeah, I pretty much prefer him as Ash.
Ash sounds better. Sounds more sexy anyway.
Yeah.
I do love the name Serafina. Like if I
Yeah, it's nice.
that's like a name I would see for myself. All right, so this has been fun, and I feel like I should reread that one definitely now.
Yeah.
And you guys should too, especially if you're not sure about whether you want to do a Shadow in the Ember or From Blood and Ash. And there's like people on TikTok that tell you need to read these 2 books from Blood and Ash first, then you need to read this one from A Flesh and
Mhm.
Fire. Like I didn't do that, and I'm completely fine. Yes, there will be some spoilers in one of the books, but like I'm completely fine with just reading the series the way it's written.
Yeah. I didn't read it yet, but I'm glad I've not read it because then the whole thing was new.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So I'll
Yeah.
definitely read that one first.
Well, knowing you, I already know you probably won't like the.
No, it's not
No.
even on my list to read.
Yeah, you have many other things.
Not even.
Also, one last thing I will say is like sometimes I read books because I see them so many times on TikTok, and then I see that the characters are super young, and because I'm not young anymore, I cannot relate to it at all. Whereas in this book,
Yeah.
and as well in Akta, in my opinion, they're older than that they probably actually are.
I mean, we'll talk about it in the next episode, but that's why I think I struggled a lot with Throne of Glass because she was 16. And I'm like,
Oh, really?
in the start, Assassin's Blade, she was 16. And then throughout the whole book, she's 19 because it's
Oh,
coming up to her 20th birthday. And I'm like,
in my head, she's 30.
I'm 34. So when they tell people's ages, I ignore the characters. And then when the men are like 20, 21, I'm like, it's just not. No, he's 40.
Yeah.
I'm like, no,
I am
no. So
almost the
I have to adjust the age settings in my brain.
well, I
Otherwise,
automatically adjust to 8 settings, so I'm
and I'm
almost
like, hello, author. There is
older.
like women out here reading books. Like, we're 30 plus. Please write a book for us. But that's what I also like about Shadow in the Ember. I think they're older, aren't they? Are they
Yeah,
older? She's not.
in my
She's
head they are.
no, I don't think she's 16, is she? But that's what I liked about what I'm reading now, Scarred.
Yeah.
He's they're in the 20s, like mid 20s, which I'm like, yay, finally.
Which
Adults. Adults. We're not running around faking them through children. Adults, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for listening, and tune in to our next episode. And let us know on socials if you do have a book or a series that you feel Kim and I should read now that you know what we love. So don't make us read anything we won't love.
No 7 book series, please.
Yes, yes. Come up, like, let us know which is the like 1 to 3 book series
Yeah.
that you love. I have some ready for Kim to read, but also they're not finished. So again, we're constantly waiting for a book. But anyway, let us know, and see you soon.
Bye. As we close the page on this episode, thank you for joining us on today's journey and being a part of our little world. If you enjoyed our unfiltered discussions and the enchanting realms we explored, don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts with us.
Let's keep the conversation alive by joining us over on TikTok. Until then, may your reading be as magical as the worlds we adore.